Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show and tell events of 2025 and 2026. Today we have two of our member artists, Sharon Gallant and Jan Owen, who will be showing their work, and we'll be so excited to meet them and know what they're about. It's going to be great. But before we start, I wanted to remind you about the field trip to the Quilt Museum in Lowell, where we're going to see Susan Goodall's. Is it Susan Goodall? Geez. Her
Gaylord.
Gaylord, Susan Gaylord's spirit books that are on exhibit. And it's a great field trip. Check it out. And hopefully 10 of you will come and we'll get you in free because they do charge. But the New England Book Artist is going to pay for the first 10 people who sign up. So sign up and let's get together. We're going to have lunch after. The other thing to remind you about is the zine swap. The deadline for your submission is November 1st, which is coming up really fast. So get those zines into shape and let us know if you're going to be sharing them. All right, let's get on with why we're here. Show and tell, which, by the way, is now on Monday evenings at 7 o'clock, approximately once a month. Every month we'll have a show and tell. So we love to see you, the different faces that are coming at us, because we changed the date and the time so that new people can see and meet. So I'm going to start tonight with Sharon Gallant. Sharon, the 2023 Kennebec County Teacher of the Year, has taught science at Gardner Area High School since 1998 and facilitated many professional workshops for educators at all grade levels. Certified K through 8 and 7 through 12 in life and physical sciences, her master's degree is in geoscience from Mississippi State University. She's recognized for a teaching style that is participatory, interdisciplinary, and academically sound. As an example, her earth science class spends 75% of their time outdoors. Her passion to connect students to meaningful assessment through book art has only deepened her conviction that given the opportunity to creatively show what they know, students will always rise to the occasion. She is a Maine master naturalist and leader of the Outing Club. And we are so glad she's going to show us her handmade books and tell us more about her teaching and her passions and herself. So, Sharon, hello.
Hello. I am going to share my screen with you.
Do I need to do anything on this end?
I don't think so. I think I can do it all on my own.
Good.
Hopefully you see a little purple thing now. Can
It,
you see my slideshow?
there it is. Yes.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. I am not your typical book artist. I sort of came in the back door, I guess is how I sort of always explain it. I am really just a high school science teacher. I retired last year after 31 years at Gardner High School. I'm grew up on a farm, so everything that we did on the farm was obviously hands-on, and that's really how I learn. I do bring my students out. My earth science class went out every day, regardless of the weather. You may have heard a little bit about the Maine Cabin Masters. I won an award for $150,000. So we built a cabin on our school site. And we purchased about $50,000 went to purchasing clothing so that everybody could go out regardless of what your boots were or weren't. So we had warm gear, rain gear, everything. So every earth science class was outside every day for the entire time. Um, and I just feel like anytime that you can get your hands on something and that you can add it sort of in an artistic way, that's really how kids retain information. So I have always sort of been like a little bit of a dabbler. I've never really considered myself an artist. I just sort of like played. During the summers, I was the naturalist on the Angelique. That's a windjammer out of Camden. And I could never remember all of the passengers. So I started making these little books, and you may be able to see them under my hand here. Maybe not. Um, but they're up here in the corner and down on the edge, and they're really just one-page books that, as you all know, that you just cut differently and fold differently, and then they all turn into like these amazing sort of little pieces. So I had used those to try to remember like who the people were that were on the trip and things that we did. Where did we go? Were we in Castine or were we in Southwest Harbor? So I'd always sort of just drawn a little bit or played a little bit in my mind. I am a Maine Master Naturalist, and one of our students in the following year's class, Jill Osgood from Portland, um, did her work in these handmade books. And I saw those and thought, oh my gosh, those are incredible. Like, how do you do that? So she invited me over to her house. She showed me a little bit about, how to make the tea book, how to make the pants book, how to do all of these other types of books. And I thought, this is great. Like, I really think I can use this in school somehow. I didn't quite know exactly how at that point, but I thought, okay, I can do this in school. And so that summer I went to, you may have heard of the Book Arts Intensive that's at USM that Rebecca Goodale was responsible for putting on it. It was phenomenal. It was 7 days of different types of books, and it was just incredible. And it was really during that time that I started really thinking about my students that struggled with paper and pencil exams and tests, or kids that would say, Miss Gallant, I knew all about this part of the soil sample, and you didn't even ask a question of that on the test. Like, I haven't really had a chance to show you what I really know. And I thought, it's pretty telling in itself that I was testing them, but they weren't able to show me what they know. So I thought, okay, I think I can try some of these types of books. And the first one that I really learned how to do was the cascading book. I have my phone attached as well. So I'm going to hold that up underneath. So you might be able to see it in one of the little squares on yours. But this was the rough draft because in science, we always have some sort of rough draft or initial piece. So that gave us an opportunity to really talk through some of the initial steps. And then I drew, let's see if I can do it this way. This is,
We can't
so
see, we can't see your what's coming over your phone. That would be a like a second screen need.
Or
So
you
um,
can you
okay,
can spotlight, or each of us can pin the
okay.
window that has Sharon's hands.
Can you do that? So that you can see my hands?
No, I can't.
let me see. I don't know.
What can I do on my end too?
I don't.
So if you go up to the three little dots that are on the upper right-hand corner and you click on that box, it should give you view profile, chat, and pin. And if you click on pin, it should show you that Did that work?
Right. And then there's a little divider between the window that you're sharing your screen with and then the window with your hands. And you can toggle that right or left to make each window bigger or smaller. I don't know if that helps.
I still don't have the phone. I I've got
You
you.
might have to go to gallery view, side by side gallery view.
I just clicked multi speaker view and it popped up.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay, good.
Oh, I think I got it. I don't know.
Where's small
No, I lost it. That wasn't it.
multi?
No, damn it.
Carolyn, can you spotlight her hands?
I don't even have her hands yet.
I lost it. I had it.
Swap video and shared screen.
Let's see if I
No.
can do.
Side by side speaker, gallery, multi speaker.
That didn't
No,
work.
maybe. There it is.
Let's find it.
Add pin. I've
We
got
can do it. I can go at the end. We can go back through
We
some
can
of
go
it too.
back
If
at the
that's
end. Yeah.
Yeah,
How
I've
about
got it in. Yeah, it's tiny.
yeah. Okay. Well, so the first book that I thought I would do with my students, I thought, okay, let's try this cascading book because it has such a big bang for the buck. You know, you open it, it's so cool looking. And we had just started a unit on phytoplankton and zooplankton. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to try this. I made an example of what I thought the kids might be able to do. And again, we can show these at the end. And these are some of the things that I got. So this was just before COVID, and I got these absolute phenomenal books, and kids all of a sudden really did know all about the one phytoplankton or zooplankton that they worked on. And how they set it up on their book was phenomenal, like really with no design or thought. Like they figured that out all on their own. And it was just incredible. And the Friday that they were due, that was the last Friday that we were in school for COVID. And so I thought, oh man. And all of a sudden, like 2 or 3 days after we were home, I started getting these emails from kids that were like, hey, is my book going to be okay there? How am I going to be able to get my book? Like if I wear a mask, can I meet you at school and get my book? Now, no kid has ever asked me about their test. No one has ever come and said, oh, Miss Gallant, geez, I really got to get my test back. That just hadn't happened. So I knew I was really kind of onto something. So we did, even though we were in COVID, we still were required to do some professional development. So I asked our administration if I could teach how to make like 6 different types of books to the high school teachers in my building. We would do 45 hours. We'd do it over 6 weeks. We would be 10 feet away from each other. Everybody had their own individual lab table. We had the windows open. The ventilation was running. I bought the tools so that everybody had their own stuff. No one was touching anybody else's piece. And I taught them how to make 6 different types of books. Also, during that time, we wrote a grant. We got $5,000 from the Oak Grove Foundation so that we could purchase, book board and cardstock and paper cutters and the glue and double-sided tape and book cloth and just everything that you would possibly need to make these books. And we sort of overtook one of the rooms in the library. My librarian said she was one of the teachers that I taught this. She was so thrilled with all of this. She was willing to give up a room. And her little kiddos, there are a number of kids that work in the library for volunteer hours. And so they would cut all of the paper anytime any teacher wanted to do a project. So everything came pre-cut and prepared for the teachers to make it super easy to be able to do all of these books. Our entire school got into bookmaking. And so we were part of the art extravaganza. These are some of the examples of the books that we made. Every student, if you made a book, yours was in the art extravaganza. It took up the entire library. We did a variety of different types of books, like matchbooks, actual hardcovers. We just did a variety of books with each different class. So there were freshmen all the way to senior examples there. And they still do it. It's still a really big deal. So there are a number of teachers that sort of select some of the books and choose that as an alternative to a paper and pencil test. So once our whole school got making them, I sort of ran into a little bit of a problem because I only knew how to make 6 books. So I was at Maine Media for a course, and Lucky Platt said, "Do you know about the Maine Crafters Association and the Craft Apprentice program?" And I was like, no, as a matter of fact, I don't. So I ended up applying and got a 100-hour apprenticeship with the fabulous Richard Wright Smith down at Maine Media. So for an entire year virtually, I went down and he taught me about every other kind of possible book that you could make and other things too, like how to make paper, different types of boxes, and just endless things. So in that 100 hours, I also was required to make a project to show sort of some of the things that I had learned. And so what I made were 2 boxes, and I'll have to show you this at the end because it's probably going to look like a black blob underneath here. I made boxes with little miniature books of every kind of book that I knew how to make, and an instruction manual of how to make them so that everyone in my school could continue to make them after I retired. So there's every possible kind of little miniature book in here. And that was sort of like my gift for leaving because I really wanted the book arts to continue and I wanted to make sure that people knew how to make them. So I'll show you all of those at the end. I actually made 2 boxes, one for school and one for me to keep forever. So this is sort of a little bit of what my box looks like. There are 20 different books in there that people can make. Some of them are sewn, some of them are glued. Some of them are non-adhesive. And there, as I said, there's an instruction manual that goes with it. I am still, even though I retired, I am still teaching bookmaking with students. There are a variety of different types, whether they're accordion, whether they are piano hinged, there are sewn ones. All of the freshman Earth Science finals are now all a book, and I can show you a couple of those examples as well. And then I'm just sort of making books mostly for me now, mostly for fun. So this is just out of a paper bag. This is just a very simple folded accordion, double accordion with the inside. My family has this little yellow spotted salamander fetish that we just love them. And we kind of have this little saying, and so I turned it into a little book. I learned how to do the Shrigley format of book, and that's what my students do for an exam now. Every time we do a unit, they create a card, and then their book is the 8 cards at the end of the semester, and they choose which 8 units. There's 12 units in the semester, and they choose which 8 that they think they really know the best about, and that's their final exam. I sew some now. I've done some circular ones. The circular ones I did with 2nd graders in Poland, and they were just the cutest little things. So I've just tried to do a variety of different books. Again, just for like my own personal fun. I am going to try to share my screen now
Good. There
so
we
that I can show you some of these. So as I said, each of my students would make a card, and let's see if I can get this a little closer, of what it was that they learned. And they could choose whatever topic it was, a tree study, this is plate tectonics, this is about lichens. So whatever unit we were doing, and then they would turn it into one of those Shriglies and choose the 8 that they were most pleased with. And that is their final for their earth science class. And again, like the work that I got was just so much better than really anything I could have ever hoped to get on a pencil and paper test.
Can't you lift them up so that we could see them?
Let's see if
We're
I can
only
get
just
this.
looking at your face.
Oh, you only see my face? Okay.
Yeah, we want to see the books.
I thought I
There's
was
a
doing it
second
by my.
sharing screen. There are two screens that are
Can
sharing.
you see this?
You
The
want
screen that has my hands?
go back to gallery view and look for the one that is just her hands, and then you can choose that one to be pinned.
Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. So these are some of the examples of the finals that my kids would turn in, which are really just a Shrigley, and they were able to take out and insert the cards that they chose. So I love those. I love the piano hinge books that they make. I think those are phenomenal as well. There's a bird study that we do every sophomore does an individual bird. And again, we did those as sort of the cascading books. So this is the wild turkey.
You can't see them.
Or you can't see them still? Let's see. Does this one work better? No, I feel like that one's not better.
If you go back to the click on gallery, Marilyn. If you click on gallery, which is the upper right of your screen where it says view, click on view and you'll go to gallery.
Got it.
Oh, good. Okay. And then you just pin the one that's showing the books.
Did you find it, Marilyn? Are you good?
I did, but I don't want to hold you up.
Oh, that's okay. So those are some of the work that I get from the students. And then this is the box that I made. And in the box are 2 drawers of every possible book that you could make. And in the bottom, here's one level, here's another level. And in the bottom here is the instruction manual of how to make each of the books.
Wow.
So,
Fabulous.
but yeah, I have to say it took me forever, but I love it. When I gave the other one to my school, it was really pretty cool. So I now am just making books on my own, doing my own sort of fun thing and teaching at schools sort of intermittently. So thank you for the chance to show you a little bit about how I looked at book arts. That initially it started out as a way to help my students learn material, and now it's an obsession. The room that I'm in used to be a bedroom. It's now a studio with more markers and paper and bookboard than I thought was possible. My husband also wonders about that. But thank you for having me and letting me show you a little bit about sort of how it works for me.
Well, absolutely wonderful. Good for you that you melded these two two things, the school and your passion. And oh, those kids must love you.
Most of the time.
Do we have any questions for Sharon? I heard you say your last name, which is different from how I pronounced it. You,
I feel like I live in Maine, and so I always say Gallant, but some people say Gallant. I've been a teacher for 31 years. I've been called a lot of things. So
well, you say Gallant, I say Gallant, you know, that's all right. Any questions here? Did anything get in the chat?
I just want to, as a former teacher, I just want to say that this whole thing is just mind blowing and wonderful. I don't know, I live in Vermont. I don't know down there if they do, schools do teachers of the year and that kind of thing, but you certainly should be that if you weren't. Just fabulous educational work.
yeah. Renee, the first books I made were really very simple. It was accordion books. It was like the pants book and the tea book. It was the cascading book. I did just a plain hardcover. So I was just like truly the most basic, simplest books that you would learn in like a beginning book arts 101. And it wasn't until really I spent time with Richard that I learned about all of the other types of books.
And you know, Richard was our speaker
Yeah.
last month.
Yes, we were in Nashville and I was like, oh man. Yeah, he's incredible. He
What a
was so
sweetheart.
kind and so patient with, because I'm a science teacher. I really was not trained in as an artist in any way. And at more than one time he was like, no, that is not the grain of that paper. Like he was just so kind and understanding about all. I didn't even know about double-sided tape.
What?
That's I know. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like better than sliced bread. I had no idea. That was yeah.
Wow. Well, Richard, we're trying to put together um, a little class that he wants to offer to our membership, just our membership, and on making boxes. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We've got
Yes.
one of our board members is working on it. One of your board members.
He would be incredible. It would be incredible.
Well, Sharon, thank you so much for showing these. I know I would have gotten better grades if I was allowed
Yeah.
to do that.
Right. If you could show what you know, not what
Know
have to
what you
guess what's going to
know.
be on the test. It just makes so much more sense to really that's what we want from our students. We want to know what they know, not, did they study the right stuff?
Right. Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Well, we've got another one of our members, Jan Owen, is going to present now. And let me read my little introduction for you, Jan. So, Jan Owen is a calligraphic artist in Belfast, Maine. Her unique hand-lettered artist books contain lots of words. Born in New York City, she moved to Maine after college, working as a printmaker and a graphic designer. With the birth of twin daughters, she started teaching herself calligraphy and went on to study and then teach lettering and book arts. Her artist book, Requiem, was a finalist in the Books That Matter Prize at the Minnesota Center for Book Arts. Her book, Wonder, was awarded honorable mention for the Stephen Harvard Book Prize by the Maine Baxter Society. She was twice awarded Maine Artist Fellowships. Jan's work is in the National Museum of Women's Art in Washington, D.C., the Jack Ginsberg Center for Book Arts in South Africa, the Walker Library of the History of Human Imagination in Connecticut, and the Portland Museum of Art in Portland, Maine. the Bainbridge Island Museum of Art in Washington State, and the Library of Congress, and in many private collections and library special collections. Wow. Are you ever accomplished? Show us some fun stuff.
Okay, let me see. Share. Whoop, let me wait. We had it
There you go.
there.
Just takes a little bit of time to click over.
Okay. So you did say, when I was growing up, New York City was my city, my big city. But now I have a daughter in Arlington, Mass, with her family, grandsons. So Boston, which was very confusing, is now my big city. And I'll be down. I'll be down. This is my writing corner in the barn. When we moved to Bangor, I got a job as a graphic designer. And that's where I learned that I loved cutting and pasting, moving blocks of text around. And you can still see some of the tools here, my T-square, triangles. Now I write with dip pens and black sumi ink. This is the other end of my studio when it was tidied up for a studio tour. And as Carolyn said, I did start teaching myself calligraphy. With twins, making woodcuts wasn't working. And I was also playing string bass for many years and with the Bangor Symphony. And practicing calligraphy and music, it's the same. It's just lots of slow practice and more practice, and then rhythm becomes the most important. I started doing commissions, more calligraphy commissions. And was before everyone had a desktop where you could design your own. And so I made diplomas, awards, invitations, and I addressed thousands of wedding envelopes, bar mitzvah envelopes. And this was excellent for teaching me accuracy and consistency. And I also just loved writing all these names. And I love work that doesn't look anything like mine, like Sharon's books. But this is by a German 20th century calligrapher. And it's similar to a book that I saw when a small group of us went to Wales to study calligraphy. And we went to the National Library in Aberystwyth, where they put out about a dozen old manuscripts. And there was one, I think it was from the 14th century, where every page had a different layout on vellum, a couple of different blocks of black text, and then maybe a line and a line of red on each page. And every page was different before click and drag, cut and paste. And this is what inspires me, because people do ask, did you study Chinese calligraphy? And I fell in paintings by Pierre Soulages when I saw an exhibit. This painting was like ceiling high and just these generous, big gestural marks, blues, blacks, and yellows. And then this is a palimpsest where a monastery might have a couple of volumes of Archimedes, and then a new book comes in that they've been loaned, they want to copy. And so they would scrape the text off one of the Archimedes and write over it. And I just love that sense of layering of words and history. As more people started doing their own invitations and posters, I started doing more of my own artwork. I learned how to do paste paper, and I wanted to charge on paper, not have to frame it. So this is about 50 inches tall, and it's a hanging accordion fold book. And with the paste, I would put on a couple of layers and then add brush marks and lots of text.
Mm.
This one is First Brush Stroke, and it's 3 accordion fold books. Each panel is 44 inches by 15 inches. And when I played in the symphony, there were moments when the basses, we would play the lowest note of a chord, and then the music raced on. You know, I felt like I was the center of the universe, but then the music went. And so I wanted to make work that everything was there all at once, not sequencing pages, just there it was. And here's a detail where you can see some of the marks in the paste and then lettering. I would get out my T-square and rule guidelines. And then in the right side, there's a little block of woven text, of woven paper. And I then went on to Tyvek, and it was to give the paper some texture and some relief, but also be able to fold flat. And so this was painted woven Tyvek with like a little basket maker's twist in it, just to give it more dimension. And I wanted it to look a bit like a silicone disc with chips on it. This is a recent book on handmade paper, and I wanted to see if the handmade paper would work as a hanging accordion fold. And I can show you here the back of it, where the the covers are covered with paper, and then on the right side is a braided linen cord that's embedded in the cover. So I could take a stack of very compact books that would be wall size when they were hung. I fell in love with the codex because of this. I met Amanda Degener when she was at had Cave Paper at Haystack. We were at a retreat, and she had this project as an ecology statement, and there was text and a trunk. And then when she left, she left me the book on and said, do something with it. And it became Requiem. And the paper, she made the paper, it was all from her seconds. She folded it in half and then in half again, crudely sewed it together, and then backed it with padding compound. So the pages are, let me see, about 12 by 10 inches. And it's 170 pages. And the symphony was playing Benjamin Britten's War Requiem then. And so just to begin, somehow, I wrote the text of the Requiem Mass just across all of the pages, just to give me a sense of a map of that I was going to get to the end. And then the music incorporates poems by Wilfred Owen, and I added some more. And because of the way the pages were folded, I could put some of the weaving in up at the top. And what's nice about the double pages is you can't see the back of the weaving. I used names of civilian and military deaths from the Iraq War. There are about 1,000, and just mix them up all together. There's a poem by Lee Sharkey in here. And then at the very end of the book, where for Amanda it was the earth and then the night sky, it just fit perfectly at the end of the music where the soprano soars above and just sings, "Into paradise may the angels lead you." Sing is a Coptic sewn book, excuse me. And it's my favorite binding because the pages open flat. This book had passages from the Odyssey, "Sing to me of the man muse," and then continued on with words about more contemporary journeys. The paper is handmade by Katie McGregor, and it was very rough, so my pen would snag on it. I painted it all gold with gold acrylic, and so it was much easier to write on. And around this time, I was wondering, how does my computer work? and I knew a few words. And I asked my daughters who started as engineers, I said, does binary code, is that important? And they said, it's the DNA of a computer. And that's too good a metaphor to let go. So I often now incorporate that in words in the book. And there's a website where I can paste in a block of text, press encode, and in seconds, it spits out pages of binary code. And here's another page spread that looks like that manuscript I saw in Wales, and then with some of the columns of binary code. And then towards the end, I put a black wash on the paper, wrote in black ink. And it does seem a little neurotic to be writing 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1 as a byte. But it's very meditative and it just makes this beautiful pattern. And it's how we read so much of what we read today.
Hey, as long as you're not a psychopath, if you're just neurotic.
I'm a monk. It's meditative. And this is a book called Allegiance. I was wondering, obviously, during a certain administration, what does that mean? And it's a Coptic sewn book again on handmade paper. I painted the flag with acrylic paints and then started writing over it. Most of the time, well, I like to combine words by different writers, different periods, different centuries into the same book. And sometimes I use my own words. And more, I want to include why I chose the words, what the words mean to me. And so at the very bottom right is little writing. And it's like marginalia in old books. And so in here, it talks about my Irish grandparents and how I've become I am their American dream. This page has the naturalization test running down it. I had never read that before. And it's a multiple choice. Depending on the administration, there are 100 questions or 120 questions, depending how hard they want to make it. And then here's the last page of the test and the oath of allegiance, because judges have told me how meaningful it is to them to have the oath of allegiance at a naturalization ceremony, to have the people raise their hands and say that. And then you can see in this book, with the Coptic bound book, I took a class from Keith Smith at Haystack, and he likes big gaps in the Coptic bound spine. I do not. So I've wrapped colored polyester, Polytex polyester around it. And sometimes I write on them or have music notes. This page has "This land is your land," and then words about Black voting. And for I make a drop spine case because clamshell boxes are too fussy. I don't have a board shear or a cutter, so it's all by hand. So that's a little more thing. And then I always type out all of the words that I've included. Some people like to have a quick glance, what did she put in here? And then I also like to remember what I've done. This is a scroll, and the Polytex polyester is used by paper conservators. If they're taking a book apart and they want to wash the pages, they lay it on this fabric, which I color with that same paste paper mixture of flour and water and acrylic paint. And it's such fun to build up the layers. I think there are 4 or 5 layers here. And then I've wrapped a tube with book cloth and embedded a hanging cord. And here's a detail photo of it, which looks like a palimpsest. So that's
How did
come
you
back.
make the fringe?
I cut little strips and then I dip my fingers in glue and just twist them around and hold them. And so it's just the twisted ends of the polyester.
It looks like you've got in a lot of the books you're using gold leaf or metal.
No, nope, gold acrylic. I studied, I use, I can write with airbrush, opaque airbrush inks because the inks are, the pigments are ground fine enough to go through an airbrush nozzle that they also flow through a pen. And so whenever I'm doing a piece that may be exposed to a lot of light, I rarely write with gouache anymore. It's mostly airbrush ink or black sumi ink, which is also permanent. This book it's a small book, this Mending the Stars and Stripes, and this is at Wellesley. And once again, the drop spine box and a little booklet underneath of the text. The paper was made by a friend, and we both were learning to make paper at Haystack weekends on the back deck. There are pine needles in it. And when she gave it to me, she gave me a box when she left the state of this paper, but I was still doing kind of fussy calligraphy and I didn't know what to do with it. But now I love it. And so this begins with a letter from Abigail Adams. Dear John, remember the ladies in your Constitution? And I learned to do cross stitch for a couple of the names. And then I included some of the voting amendments, and she had some of these bright red and blue papers included. And here's another one with more voting rights. And I was hoping to finish that last name, but not to be. This book is included in the America at 250 show, which is going to open at Codex. I think there are about 40 books that were selected. And then next April to mid-May, it will be at the Boston Athenaeum. So maybe I can meet some of you there for that.
Oh, field trip.
Field trip. This book.
Do you send that information to one of us, Susan?
I will. Yes.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
They just made some of the dates more firm, so they're getting closer.
Congratulations.
I was excited, yeah. And then let's see. This book, Illuminated Night. And I saw the New England Book Arts show at USM, and I went down to measure the cases for when the Midcoast Maine show would be there. And as we know, it's so hard to display a codex. You open it up and it's one page if it's under glass. That's all you can see. And so I made this especially for those cases where it would open up, it's one signature, it would open up to the centerfold, but you can just see the layers and that there are more pages underneath. And so while my computer has so much information, that feeling when you go into a library of how much is just hidden behind all the words that are in the books. It is one big fat signature. And how tall, let me see, well, I think it's as tall as the cases, I think they were 18 inches and it just squeezed in. And so when I'm assembling something like this, there's lots of blue tape involved trying to hold pages together while I sew it. Mm. And then here's another page turn. I'm sure we all have saved scraps of paper. And when I was doing more work on paste paper, I didn't like a piece if I did too much on it. It just got too busy, too much. And so I couldn't throw it away. I would save all these bits and pieces. And then I got a circle cutter and cut out lots of heads from these remnants and put them into a flag book because we all walk around with words in our heads. So this is called The Mind's Eye. And this is a recent accordion. Oh, no, this is a book. I don't think Anya is on, but this was part of a show in Poland about with the theme of freedom. And I used FDR's Four Freedoms as a basic. And when I was a printmaker, I made these lithographs, but they just didn't say enough. And obviously, I just didn't know then that I needed to learn calligraphy. And so they were perfect for this book and the idea of freedom. This is the front and back covers. And let me get the dates for this because the Freedom Show will be at the Concord Library, I think next March, but then at the Boston Public Library, I think May to July or sometime in March. Get dates of that to you because I can't wait to see. There were books from all over different countries about freedom. And then this book is an accordion fold book. It's about, I think, about 15 inches high. And this is in a Mid-Coast Maine book art show at the Blue Hill Public Library now. And while I mostly write with metal dip pens, this was using little scraps of mat board dipped into ink. And, the cardboard would just run out of ink halfway down the stroke. But I love the energy that gives, just the variety of texture.
Beautiful.
That was fun to do. And then in August, I was part of a studio tour organized by Waterfall Arts in Belfast. And about 65 people came through. And it's such a good way to get comments about your work. I had another piece with this kind of lettering that just drew people to it. So that's when I thought, I have to make something more. But then a number of people asked, why did someone ask you to make this? Tell you they just don't quite understand. And so no, I pick words that I think are important, that I want seen, that I want people to read again, to share, call attention to. And then once I do make the books, I have outlasted 3 book arts dealers, and I'm sorry, Vamp and Tramp has closed, but now I send them to Kelmscott Bookshop. I met Fran Duraco at a Codex, and they're in Maryland. And what's nice with the dealers, they know the collectors, but also what special collections a certain area they might be looking for. And we have a small Mid-Coast Maine book arts group. We meet every other month, and Sandy Weissman sends out our emails. We met about a week and a half ago. There are about 50 people on our mailing list. Not all are in Maine, but we thought at our last meeting, it was, well, what does the group want to do? And people like the exhibits in libraries, looking for other places. But we have been looking at New England book arts because of your website, how good it is. And so we've just started. Someone said, I can do a very basic website, as a way for people to know what we do, who we are. And so that's in the works. We're not as organized. We don't have a president. So far, people say, I can do that. I can do that. So it's just so nice having these book arts groups to be part of and just to see so much work. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's extraordinary that you did that with little pieces of mat board.
Yes, and so, just
How the heck do you hold on to that so it gets the right angle?
there's no right angle. You just
Drag it.
You play with it. Yeah.
That blows my mind.
Well, I used to teach very formal calligraphy, and no one has time for that really anymore. So I have been teaching like lettering for book artists, just trying to with some ideas of letter spacing and a few rules, but also just how people love seeing handwritten text, I think. And Herman Zapp, the calligrapher, type designer, who developed typefaces, was a calligrapher. He told calligraphers, be free. The computer can do all of that now, but the freedom of the human hand, your gesture, that's what we have. So be free.
And may it never be taken over by a machine. Never, ever. Oh, thank you, Jan,
You
so
are.
much. Does anyone have any questions? Because I really, you're using a gold acrylic paint. What and is it a particular brand? I have a liquid gold paint that is as close as I can get to foil or metal leaf because I use a lot of that in my paintings.
Createx pearlized airbrush colors.
You have to put it next to your face. Oh, and move your face up. Pearlized
Createx, I can send.
Createx
Create airbrush colors.
airbrush.
Yeah.
That's one of the airbrush paints, huh?
Yes.
Wow. I'm just writing this down. I don't mean to have you have silent moments. Wow, both of you really, really brought it in tonight. It was just gorgeous, both of you. And I love to see the differences of
Yes. Mm-hmm.
yours are a raw and innocent Sharon, and because they're handwritten in the way that they are, um, it creates a completely different emotion. And Jan, I saw your piece that was in the Building Books 3 show
Mm-hmm.
with the overlapping and I was seeing this stuff live. I hope all of you get to see these books live somehow, somewhere, some way. But keep looking out for our shows,
Mm-hmm.
and entering our shows so that we can feature your work at these galleries and locations. Oh, well, thank you both so much for sharing everything. It was great to get to know you, and I hope we all can somehow make it to a field trip where we can meet each other.
Mm-hmm.
Jan, keep that field trip in mind because
Mm-hmm.
we want field trips in all the different areas,
Mm-hmm.
not just Boston, where most of us are located, but yeah, beautiful.
Well, thank
Thank you.
you. That's, yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to stop recording.
Okay, I can't wait